And hopefully we are live. Attempt number two. It's kind of unusual that we've gone on way too good of a streak, I would say, throughout our run with the cafe to not have any technical issues. So we had our false start right now. Apologies to all of you in the chat room who had to reconnect. Hopefully you found a new link, and let's try this one more time.
Well, we have the man of the hour to come save us. He is one half of the Kings of Sport with it is the birthday week actually of one Marcus Vanderberg, but today it is his co-host joining us, brother Nate Milton, who is with us on the program. Nate, how are you?
Aloha, my brothers. I am doing well.
Yeah, Nate was just looking down at the watch. He was like, guys, get it together here. My time is money, and my money is my time.
It is the worst. I mean, I hate to embarrass myself in front of Nate Milton, but thank you. Thank you for sticking around.
Well, Nate, we have lots that we wanted to chat with you about. We are 10 days out from WrestleMania. It is going to be another marathon show. Have you cleared out your weekend for WrestleMania weekend viewing? What is going to be on the menu for that weekend in terms of stuff that you will be catching?
I mean, this is a crazy time of year for anybody that not only follows wrestling, but other sports, because, you know, we've got the March Madness heading towards its conclusion.
Never
Today's
heard of
the
it.
opening day of baseball, and I'm surprised you guys are here instead of at the Jays game.
We would much rather be talking to you, Nate, than watching the Blue Jays enter what is going to be a horrific season for them. That I saw some quote that they are approaching this season as the underdogs. It's like, well, no kidding, you're coming in as underdogs because nobody is tabbing you for any success in this rebuilding effort. So way bigger priorities discussing things with Nate Milton.
Maybe they'll be the Kofi Kingstons of the American League East.
We can only find out if it will be a new day for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and the Blue Jays. But it's assess this build up for WrestleMania, because we're going to get into the Kofi Kingston discussion. I know you have shared a lot of thoughts on it as well, and let's start there. Actually, this is obviously was not the intended plan for Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania, and this is something that we can trace to Mustafa Ali's injury and really seizing upon something that, I mean, Kofi Kingston really finds himself in a spot that I can't even tell you, Nate, where this guy would have been on the card had that injury not occurred, and this momentum kind of lifted him into a fairly prominent spot at WrestleMania this year.
This has been fascinating for me, guys, and I think, women's match aside, this has probably been the build with the most interest and anticipation for me, because not only do you have a compelling story with a guy like Kofi Kingston, but it's been a look at the company kind of doing things on the fly. And how do you adjust when option A goes out the window and option B goes out the window and you got people getting injured? How does the company catch up in storyline? And I think, all things considered, they've done a good job. It hadn't been perfect. There's been flaws, but considering that this is something they didn't expect, something that is kind of organic, I think they've done a good job telling the story.
It's hard to contrast to the program that never was, that was expected with Daniel Bryan and Kevin Owens. So it's hard to really compare like which would have been better. But I feel that this match feels bigger for Daniel Bryan's WrestleMania program than the alternative. Like, this has a genuine baby face that the audience is behind, that has been, I think that I wasn't the biggest fan of kind of the structure of like the series of gauntlet matches, but that moment at the end of SmackDown this week, I thought was a really strong ending to get Kofi in there, and the audience reacted as though it was a big deal for WrestleMania. And I think, while I don't think it's the number one program going into WrestleMania, it's in the upper echelon.
Yeah, I think the women's program is probably still number one, but this, in terms of interest, has surpassed Brock and Seth for me. It's past that in the dust. And I think, going back to that moment on SmackDown, the close of SmackDown, as well as the moment where the Usos forfeited, I was like, there's some really good storytelling here, and I don't know who's writing this. I don't know how much input the New Day themselves had in this, but it's been a really well told story, including like some of the racial elements, which they hit, but not too hard. It's been very nuanced and restrained, which are two words I don't think people usually associate with pro wrestling storytelling.
So I wanted to go into that if you are following this program strictly week to week on television, I don't know how much people may be focused on those particular elements. Certainly, if you were watching, I think it really climaxed with the Big E promo last week after television and referring to people like us, where I think it was not subtle at all. Like they were certainly pushing that button. How much of this have you seen as a story that has underlying a racial component to it, and how much that is necessarily being pushed from the company versus the New Day working in kind of this sidebar issue that has a much larger and kind of broad message that a lot of people have certainly clued in on?
The best stories in wrestling, the old cliche is, when you take reality and you turn it up to 11. And I think this is a story that has deep roots in terms of fans' perception of the company as well as performers over the years. The WWE doesn't have the best track record when it comes to portraying characters who are not white guys. And full disclosure, even the white guys, their track record has been spotty at best at times when it comes to portraying compelling characters. And so when you have something like this, if you had told me beforehand that Kofi Kingston is going to be in this storyline and the WWE is going to touch on elements of race, are you in for it? I would say absolutely not, because they have not showed me that they can be careful with this type of thing. But with this, when you've got Vince McMahon, calling Xavier and Big E young bucks, which probably flew over the head of a lot of fans. But if you are somebody that's black or somebody of a certain age, that terminology as a derogatory term for black men hits home.
Mhm.
Or when you have Byron Saxton, who has been doing some of the best work of his career in this feud, talk about Kofi having to work twice as hard to get half as much. It's like, I really like how they've told this story, but it's been told on a couple different levels. Like, if you just want to look at this as a mid-card guy finally getting a shot after 11 years, you can take the story as that and enjoy it just as much as anybody else. But if you are somebody who the deeper story resonates with, then you get an extra layer of kind of engrossment and investment in it. So again, I don't know who's doing it, because Kazim's not with the company anymore. So I don't know who's been writing this, but I give them credit for being able to talk about race without being so over the head and malicious, so to speak, with race.
So much of, I think, what you're describing, Nate, seems way too nuanced for what we're used to,
Mm.
coming from the WWE and Vince McMahon in particular. So, I mean, if you had to take a guess as to who might be responsible for it, how much do you think is left up to Vince McMahon and maybe his writers, and how much is it up to the performers?
That's a great question, Way. I would give probably the lion's share of the credit to the performers, not only the New Day, but also Daniel Bryan, who, like, he hadn't gone full Triple H here, going back to that Triple H Booker T feud,
Yeah.
but by saying like the B plus player and using the same script that they used against him on his road to WrestleMania, like, I love Daniel Bryan in this feud. But in terms of who I would give the credit to, I'd say the New Day, Daniel. Uh, I don't know who's back behind the scenes. Maybe Road Dogg is in on this, but I think John brought up a good point earlier. What the New Day has done outside of the body of SmackDown proper, in terms of going online and Big E's video, which I thought was really well done, and some of the stuff after the show where the guys are talking about quitting, like, it shows people who care about their characters and people who care and are invested in the stories they're trying to tell.
Yeah, and I think that's where they are certainly able to get away with blurring the line if they are on their own kind of introducing kind of a racial inequality perspective to this story, that we have the tried and true WWE story of the aspiring babyface that is held down and has to, as they say, climb the mountain, but then you can't reach the top of the mountain. And that can be kind of exploited into something much a much larger view of that racial inequality that people can certainly read more into this, with the WWE kind of, it's somewhat divorced from any larger themes if you're just simply watching this as the latest babyface being held down. So I think it's been very interesting to watch what elements have been introduced here, and be very curious of kind of the New Day's own personal touches on this to certainly hit that button that a lot of people have resonated with.
Even something as simple as Kofi and his demeanor through this whole thing, because I know I've heard some people, and you guys might have had this discussion on one of the reviews in terms of why Kofi isn't more demonstrative. Why isn't Kofi fighting back more like a Becky Lynch? And I think it's two reasons for that. One is we've already got Becky and to some extent Charlotte and Ronda kind of doing the fight the authority thing. So it might feel redundant, but also Kofi having to suffer these indignities, and he speaks his mind. He had that great promo against Vince a couple weeks ago, but having to speak your mind without coming off as the angry black guy, I think is a situation a lot of folks have to deal with in their own work lives. And so just like Kofi can't go to that level that a Becky Lynch would be, because he knows in the history of society that doesn't end well for him, because he's going to either get fired or arrested or whatever. And so Kofi, having this pained look on his face and, talking about, I missed all these, I never had a trick or treat with my son. It's like this guy's good and he gets it. And again, if you don't have any of that context, any of that subtext, any of that backstory to go along with it, you can enjoy the story of a dude that's been here 11 years and he's finally getting a shot. But again, I think if you're somebody, particularly people of color, who have had to kind of deal with some of this stuff in real life, it hits a little bit harder.
So let me go a step further here, Nate, that, it's interesting. We just watched here in Canada this week, the Kenny Omega documentary. And one of the people interviewed for that is a woman by the name of Rachel Giuliani, who identifies as bisexual, and stating that the fact that this Golden Lovers storyline connected with her so much was that it was something that she was able to see herself represented in pro wrestling storytelling, and that everyone looks to have their selves represented in some form or fashion in an area of entertainment. I am very curious from your perspective, like how you feel you are represented within, specifically to the WWE's storytelling, and if it is something where they have missed the mark. Their history, I think, would give you a lot of a long list of missing the mark and not giving the most favorable representation. And is this such a contrast to that this is something that you feel they are identifying?
Representation matters. Like, there's a reason Black Panther was a big hit. There's a reason Crazy Rich Asians resonated in a way that other movies haven't. It's because you're servicing people that have been underserved by their entertainment. And so when it comes to wrestling, like, I love wrestling. I've been a fan forever, and I'll probably be a fan until I'm no longer on this earth. But that being said, watching the WWE in particular over the years has been a mixed bag at best, because on the one hand, you can have a great story that they're telling right now with Kofi, but this is also the same company that gave us Brodus Clay, a guy who came out on a WrestleMania and danced with a group of women that were depicted, as mammies, as a racial stereotype. I think he had a promo on Raw one night where he was like, "I was born to shuck and jive," and that, as a wrestling fan, that pisses me off. Not enough to not watch, because it's a habit now. It's what I do. But when you see stuff like that, or you see stuff like the Mexicools coming out on John Deere's,
right,
and things of that nature, the
Crime Time.
Terrible portrayal of Asian workers over the years in the company, it's like, I just don't think they have people in the writer's room that can see from a different perspective and can maybe pitch Vince different ideas from a different reality that he might not have grown up with. So to get back to your original question before I go too far on a tangent, John, it's frustrating at times because the talent's there. The excuse that there's no talented people of color, you can't use that anymore. In a company where you got Ricochet, you got the New Day, in a company where Keith Lee is employed, you can't use the excuse that, oh, we don't have any black people of a certain level of talent, Naomi, but the thing is, now that you've got these talented people, are you going to be able to craft stories that can reflect their talents? Because here's the secret, and I think Alex Greenfield knew this, back when he was writing for SmackDown. One of the reasons he had one of my favorite runs on SmackDown, if you give, fans of color something that they can sink their teeth into, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to turn away white fans. And you're also going to, make your pockets bigger. Because at the end of the day, that's the color Vince cares about the most, is green. So I don't see why you would alienate a percentage of your audience, a percentage of your consumer base, by not giving them stories that, might appeal to them.
And when you see some of those examples, Nate, over the years and following it as long and as deeply as you have, like, can you draw a distinction as well between portrayals that you feel are, prejudice versus just ignorance and maybe not knowing any better, that this is something that maybe not even understanding, like, the weight that some of these portrayals have on a portion of their audience?
Yeah, that's another good question. And to Vince McMahon, because I know people might misconstrue what I'm saying, that Vince McMahon is racist or out of touch or whatever. I don't think that at all. I do think, however, that there is an ignorance. There is a blind spot because he has not, A, had to experience this stuff firsthand, and B, I don't know how many friends Vince McMahon has that are of different races. Uh, and so when you have stereotypes and caricatures in your mind, that's what's going to come across in your art. And so I think,
And that goes across, sorry to interrupt, Nate, like, lots of their characters, that they cast this wide net in an attempt to grab as many people as possible, and you rely on a lot of stereotypes and that people are going to associate with in their mind. I'm not saying that that's right, but that goes to a lot of the characters that you see, that they are these large cartoon characters that sometimes rely on some very outdated stereotypes, and sometimes you cross a line with those stereotypes. Absolutely. And we've seen many of those examples.
Even somebody like a John Cena. Like, John Cena started off as a stereotype, the doctor of thugonomics. But that wasn't all John Cena had to offer. And so the question becomes, when you get these performers, okay, if you want to start them off in a gimmick that's stereotypical, okay, fine, I guess. But are you going to allow these people to grow? And, or are they going to be stuck in a position like a Crime Time? Are they going to be stuck in a position, I hate to say it because I think the guy works hard and I think he's extremely entertaining, but are you going to be stuck in that R-Truth position where you're the shuck and jive guy? So, somebody like a King Booker, I think that's a gimmick that worked mainly because of Booker T rather than anything they gave him to do. So I think the biggest thing that would help them with this, and it's not got to be, it doesn't have to be this thing where, oh, we need only black people to be represented positively, or women can only be represented in a positive light, because that's not reality. The question is, are your writers, are your creators, are your bookers, are your agents, are you putting people that are diverse in those positions? Because if not, you're going to get more of the same. And it's not that the writers are racist or the writers are prejudiced. It's that they don't have experience. And the more experience you can bring to that table, the more experience you can bring to that room, I think the better your product will become.
From what I've kind of seen in terms of, like, whenever they have kind of tried to promote whatever growth in terms of I guess more representation, it's come with a dollar amount attached to it, like you mentioned, Nate. I think the only color Vince sees is green. So I think whether or not this Kofi Kingston storyline will be replicated in the future and continuing in the future, I think will largely depend on how much money it's going to make Vince McMahon. How do you think ultimately this will fare, and how can, if I'm a member of the audience who wants to see more of this, how can I show my support for it?
I mean, the way you can show support or opposition is always with your wallet. And that's the hardest thing in the world for wrestling fans. We kind of talked about this around the time of Crown Jewel. Like, yes, people are upset. People are rightfully outraged at this business transaction. But are they going to stop watching the WWE? No. Are they going to cancel their subscription to the network? Probably not. So I obviously, with your wallet is one way you can vote. But the other way that you can kind of vote and have your voice heard is with what the audience is doing now. Like, I think if Kofi had that big pop before Elimination Chamber and that was it and it dissipated, we wouldn't be on this road. They probably would have gone with Kevin Owens.
Right.
But I think because people have responded and reacted to Kofi both online and in the arenas, I think that's why they decided to go this route. It'll be interesting though at WrestleMania to see if they go the full way and pull the trigger and put the belt on them, because I still have my doubts about that. But it'll be interesting to see.
I think you have completely justified doubts. I don't see how you can't do it, but that would be ignoring history in terms of.
I would have said the same thing about Booker T and Triple H.
100%, 100%. WrestleMania 19 in 2003. Yeah, it was the exact same scenario where it just, for that buildup and to have Booker T not get the big victory at the end of it. Yeah, I'm curious very much to kind of your expectations of how this ends at WrestleMania, and as well, I think their idea that if they're going to continue this story beyond WrestleMania, that it's a bigger win down the road. But I think the time to do it is WrestleMania.
Yeah, obviously, I don't think Kofi is going to be as hot as he will be in that building on that night. I think you've got to pull the trigger. And in terms of his run after that, like, I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. Is this something that's sustainable? Is this something that, will be passe in a month, or is it something that the fans generally want to see what they can do putting this guy in this position? In a best world, perfect scenario, I think Kofi wins, and I think you give him a decent run. Like, he doesn't have to have, that record-setting CM Punk type of run or a Hogan type of run, but I think you see what the guy can do and allow him to run with the ball. But I don't know, man. Like, I still have my misgivings. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. The other way around. I'm turning into George Bush right now. But I don't know, man. Like, I have been impressed though with the way people have responded to Kofi, because 2 months ago this reaction isn't there, but people seem to be kind of genuinely behind the guy, and I hope it pays off for him.
I wanted to ask you, Nate, like, amongst other wrestling fans, in the African American community, is this resonating more with them than your typical storyline? How much do you think outside of our typical bubble this will reach?
I definitely think so. And again, my perspective might be a little bit skewed because now we're talking about a bubble within a bubble. So, the overwhelming feel I get from Black wrestling fans is this is a big deal. Other than The Rock, we have not seen a Black WWF/WWE champion. And this, like, the support for Kofi is overwhelming, but also the skepticism is overwhelming as well. A lot of Black wrestling fans do not feel like they'll pull the trigger on Kofi, and so it's something, man. Like, I think if they do this, they will receive such love from a portion of their fan base that they've neglected. That, like, there's money to be made here. Like, there's money to be made from this experiment, so to speak. And so just from a business
like the New Day has been a really great merchandise seller for this company. Like, they have proven an ability to be amongst their top merchandise sellers and not pushed as a main event act either.
Yeah, so if you take that and you put the rocket on Kofi, you strap the rocket to his back, I think this could be a big thing for them. And it's like, one of the things I love about the New Day, I was talking to somebody this past week about Big E, who, again, I feel Big E will get his due one of these days, hopefully. But one of the things I love about the New Day is not only are they good in the ring, not only are they good pro wrestling characters, but they are some of the most marketable people on the roster in terms of, a mainstream act that you can put on Kimmel, that you can put on Fallon,
Absolutely,
that you could put on the Today Show. Like, I don't know why they don't do more with these guys.
Yeah, I mean, when they did that, when they have the ability to go on and do stuff with Jimmy Fallon that we've seen in the past. I mean, they're a great, these three people are just great ambassadors for this company.
I think their current incarnation maybe has some limitations in the form of them being kind of comedic, in the form of them being a tag team. But I wanted to kind of springboard into a different question, Nate. Like the breakup is always talked about with the New Day, and I wanted to get your perspective if this storyline goes according to how you want to see it. When would be a good time to have that breakup occur, if at all?
I would never have them break up because I believe it was John that brought up the point about the Hardys.
Mm-hmm.
And how that feud never really kind of reached its potential. Uh, Certainly not in the WWE. And I feel like even though they're not blood related, people love the New Day as a group. And we, you can't watch the videos on the WWE YouTube after the show, or see how the New Day reacted at the end of SmackDown this week, and not feel something for these guys as a unit and as friends. Uh, Will there come a day when you need to split them apart? Yes, absolutely. I've been saying that for a while. I don't know if you need to turn any of them heel to do it, though. Uh, if you were, obviously, I think Big E would be the choice. But I don't know if I want to see that. I think it could work if they have a properly crafted story around it. I think you got to be careful with it, though. Like if it's too hasty, fans are not going to buy it, and you'll probably end up hurting Big E and Xavier in the long run.
I feel they've reached that point where I don't think the audience wants to see this group feud. I think they want to see them, like maybe they go off onto different avenues of their careers, but they are always linked by this group. I think they have reached that level to this audience.
I think so. Like I don't want to see Kofi win at WrestleMania, and then the next night or the Tuesday night on SmackDown, Big E gets jealous, and then me and Xavier did this for you. What are you going to do for us? Yeah, it wouldn't feel real. I think that's part of why the Kofi storyline has worked and connected, guys, is because it's a story that somebody wrote, but it has real enough elements to get you invested. And I think if we saw Biggie and Xavier turn on Kofi after all this, I don't know if it would ring true.
My final thing, Nate, is just looking at, historically, I just think pro wrestling and WWE, it's a very difficult outlet, I think, to tell more complex stories because they have a really bad track record of it. And I don't think the audience trusts the company to tell a well thought out kind of nuanced story about, heavy topics like religion and race and diversity. This is a company that has really exploited those traits in its past. But when you look at something like, I'm certain you heard the interview that Kazim did with Wrestle Rap and talking about the segment with Booker T, where the New Day, they got down on one knee, and that was kind of their nod to what was a much bigger story at the time that was going on a major national sports story with Colin Kaepernick. And that was something that they just on their own were able to work in, and it probably didn't connect with many people, but just to see something like that, like giving like a nod to a much larger story that's going out there. Can this be a program and a company that can go in that direction and showcase these kinds of stories through their characters?
It can in small doses. And as a wrestling fan, like I wouldn't want the whole show to be this. I don't think every edition of SmackDown or Raw should be Breaking Bad or The Wire. Like it doesn't have to be this top flight, deep introspective programming, but I do think there can be storylines within the body of this crazy wrestling show that do get real, that do take a deeper tone and a bit more serious tone and connect with different parts of the audience that you might not have connected with before. And so like I think the only way though that you can sustain this is by diversifying the writers' room and by having the right people. Like I think the New Day and Kofi Kingston, they were the right guys at the right time to try to tell this story. I don't know if you could just throw random black guy number one or random Latino dude number one or random woman here in plug and play in a storyline. It's got to be the right talent. And the New Day were the right talent. They found where they could work the message in, and it didn't hit people over the head. It wasn't off-putting to people. But for those that understood what they were saying, it makes the story so much better. And I have to applaud them on that.
All right. Well, Nate, I want to thank you for joining us for an extended period here. This was something we really wanted to discuss with you, and thanks so much for.
Real quick, John, I want to give a quick PSA to the postmarks out there that are heading to WrestleMania, because I got your back, ladies and gentlemen. You are allowed to wear dreadlock wigs. You are allowed to wear Jamaican tracksuits to celebrate Kofi Kingston, but under no circumstances are you allowed to wear blackface.
Oh, jeez. Well, I don't think that will be.
Thanks, Nate.
I don't think our audience would do that, but maybe they have a friend that would do that, and they can pass this message along to help them out.
See, I would love to see the people that are wearing dreadlocks for in celebration of Kofi Kingston. That'd be great. I think I'm going to start.
Do you think that the dreadlock dynamo is going to stick, Nate?
Oh, it sounds like the worst late 90s Marvel character, like that was invented for diversity. Like the Dreadlock Dynamo and Spider-Man team up on this week's adventure, folks. But no, they're gonna make some money selling dreadlock wigs. Somebody is, if not the company, the bootleg guy out in front of the stadium.
Well, Nate, with spring training over, Marcus is actually going to be at our live show next week. I have heard through sources that may or may not be Marcus himself. But what is coming up? What is on the latest Kings of Sport? And tell our listeners where they can follow you fine folks on Patreon.
Yes, thank you, sir. The latest edition of the Kings of Sport, which came out on Monday, featured myself, Marcus Vanderberg, and the professor, Chris from LA. Talking about the NCAA tournament. We talked about the sad state of the Los Angeles Lakers. And then we got into the conversation that we just had, talking about Kofi Kingston and WrestleMania and race in relation to wrestling. So that's up right now at kingsofsport.com. You can also check out the Patreon, like John mentioned, which has the audio version of the Kings of Sport, the video version of the Kings of Sport, as well as the 20 which is a political show from Chris from LA. So there's a lot there at the Kings of Sport. And then, of course, you can hear me talking about, to this point, the only Black WWE champion, The Rock, on the Rocky Maivia Picture Show here on Post Wrestling.
Patreon.com/The Kings of Sport. Nate, it's always great when we get to catch up with you, and look forward to the next Rocky Maivia Picture Show. That drops the third Saturday of each month, and some great ones already. And am I still penciled in for the Tooth Fairy?
As of now, you are the only person who has volunteered. So yes, your position in the line is secure, John.
I didn't know how long of a lineup it was going to be for the Tooth Fairy, but that was the one I was jumping onto, Nate. So I will make myself available once you get to January 2008 in Dwayne Johnson's filmography.
You're our Kofi Kingston, John. We're holding you back from the show, but one of these days we're gonna put the rocket on you.
I can't wait. I'll be ready. All right. Well, thank you so much, Nate, for joining us, and you have a great rest of the week, and I hope you survive WrestleMania.
Hey, thank you for having me, fellas. I appreciate it. Way welcome back, and you guys get some rest. You got some busy weeks ahead of you.
It's going to be daunting. Thank you very much, Nate. All right, we're gonna go quickly right now to a. Are we gonna go to a phone call? No, we are not. Anyway, always great to chat with Nate. We may have our phone call here.
Yeah, our phone lines are open right now, 1732-800-4423, or Post Wrestling on Skype, toll free. So call in if you have any thoughts on this very interesting conversation.
And who is on the line right now?
MJ from NJ, waiting for you in New York City.
Oh, wow. Very clever.
We'll be there soon, MJ. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Can't wait to have you guys in the city. Can't wait for next week. And
hey,
congratulations! Yeah.
Serious question. Should I bring a jacket? Like, what? How should people prepare to pack for New Jersey?
Bundle up.
Yeah.
Bundle up. I'm outside right now, steps away from the Hunter Hearst Helmsley building, and it is quite brisk. I would think that it's going to be pretty cold come 7 o'clock next Sunday night. Going to be probably around 45, feel like 35.
Ooh. Yeah, that stadium. Damn.
It's from our meteorologist, MJ, in NJ. It's 52 today in New York, everyone.
Well, it doesn't feel 52. But anyway, congratulations on the Kenny Omega interview. I imagine that was quite a good get for you guys, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Made me very proud to be a postmark.
Yeah, thanks very much for checking that out. We do appreciate it. What else did you want to chat about, MJ?
Yeah, a couple of things. Just on next week and kind of previewing the week that will be. I don't know if anyone is keeping tabs on New Japan tickets for the Garden. I have 2 that I am happily willing to give away to any postmark who might be listening. If you guys know anybody in need of tickets. But that show is incredibly overbought, and you can pretty much sit anywhere on the lower level of the Garden for $80.
Well,
which is quite below face value.
What's your Twitter handle, MJ?
My Twitter handle, that's a very good question.
Or are you know what? You know what? Go to the message board and find MJ, and you can work it out. Me and Wai are tapped out on contests, so we're on contest freeze at the moment. But if you want to go harass MJ at forum.postwrestling.com and you want to go to the Madison Square Garden show, he may be your hookup.
Holla.
Yeah, I got very good tickets and just want to share them with people that are interested in seeing the show. I'm very excited for that show. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, in terms of ticket availability, the NXT show, extremely hard ticket to get. So just from like a on the ground in New York right now, that ticket is something that like nobody seems to be wanting to part with. That feels like the most anticipated show of the week next week, in terms of the big ones, the big 3 that is. And ironically enough, it feels like WrestleMania, maybe based on the length or the fact that it's Sunday, is kind of the least anticipated in terms of people looking to go live. At least that's kind of my circle of people that I talk to and who I'm looking to go with and whatnot. But yeah, so just kind of that was my main thoughts, was like on what the vibe right now in New York feels like. Definitely cold, definitely going to be a long show Sunday. I think that.
What's your match of the weekend, MJ?
People,
What's the most anticipated match for you that weekend that you want to see?
Probably, well, so it's entrances, right? I'm really excited to see entrances. I can't wait to see Okada in the Garden. I can't wait to see Ronda Rousey come out to Joan Jett and Hunter have an entrance at Mania. Like, I've never seen that live, so that's exciting for me, and that's really what I'm looking forward to, like the experience of all of it. In terms of matches themselves, it's probably NXT and New Japan. The stuff on the Mania card, like I did the math, and if you have a 4.5-hour main show based on the amount of matches that I think will be on the main show, you're looking at between 20 and 25 minutes with entrances. So that doesn't leave like a lot of time for some great in-ring. And now I'm not saying we won't get great in-ring, but it feels like they're cramming a real lot onto that card. So I'm really curious as to how they pull that off and how that show kind of flows over the course of 4.5 to 5 hours.
I'll be really surprised if this show is over by 11:30 that night. I could easily see that surpassing midnight.
Yeah, that's based on, I mean, the math I did was based on 7 o'clock start to 11:30. So I agree with you. Like, if that show's over by midnight, that's going to be a welcome surprise for me.
Yeah.
I think in terms of the big 3 matches, right? Kofi and Bryan, Brock and Seth, and the women's 3-way. So you have 3 situations where I think the crowd is really going to want to see 3 happy endings. And I don't expect WWE to give us 3 happy endings. The one that I think is the least likely to occur is actually Becky walking out of MetLife with the title. I think that they're probably going to screw her. I think the story sets up for that, where she doesn't get pinned. You have Charlotte get the win over Ronda, and you kind of have a situation where if Ronda's leaving, you have Becky and Charlotte still going at a feud with Becky's claim that like the man never got beat, and Charlotte never belonged in the match in the first place. Because I do think Kofi winning, it doesn't hurt Bryan. Bryan's run right now as a heel has been so great. He doesn't need the title, and I think you really do cement Kofi. You open up options for the New Day stuff, as you and Nate so greatly talked about. And then, I don't know, is Brock staying? Is Brock going? I always have the theory that you bet Brock Lesnar because he's Brock Lesnar, and if Vince has the chance to keep him, he's going to, and that probably means the title. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's setting up for very interesting outcomes in terms of what direction they choose to go in outside, coming out of Mania.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for the call, MJ. We look forward to seeing you down there next week, and thanks for the update, especially on the ticket stuff.
It'll be great. Looking forward to it, guys.
Thanks, you, MJ. Yeah, I think that I think he's right. When you look at those top 3 matches, I would expect that you are going to get. Yeah,
hard for me to not picture Becky Lynch winning the main event,
especially in the place that it's in. Let's keep it going here with the calls. Who is this on the line?
Hansi from Toronto.
Hansi from Toronto.
What's up, Hansi? Is it Hansi or Hansi? Please tell me.
either or, man. You call me Hansi, Hansi. It doesn't matter to me.
Got it.
We just want to get it accurate.
It's all good. I understand. No, I understand, man. Listen, I want to say that the conversation you guys had with Nate was probably one of the best conversations amongst like a wrestling podcast that talks about like how race and sexual orientation has kind of played negative stereotypes. And as someone who I would look at myself as like a minority who like I used to go, oh, it doesn't really matter, man. Everything's a stereotype. Who gives a crap, whatever. And over the last couple of years, like I really found the importance of representation mattering. Like I was one of these guys that when the Muhammad Hassan thing was happening, a lot of my brown friends, they really dug the character because he was speaking some truths about, like, even though he was a heel, you know what I mean? Everyone was treating him like crap. Like I still look at him like a baby face because he was like, at the time, everyone hated Muslims for, 9/11. And this guy was, even though he wasn't a brown guy, he was an Italian guy. I felt like the representation of his voice, it mattered to me. And then when they went down to that terrorist angle, I remember like just watching it with my friends, and they were really pissed off. Like this was like one of the first times I sent like an email to the company, and it wasn't like a hateful email. It was like, I was disappointed with what you guys did. Like it really.
I'll be honest, Hansi, you were not that polite.
No, I was actually polite. I didn't want to offend them still, but like I was still like really, really angry about it. But I remember like it caused like an argument breaking out with like some of my white friends and some of my brown friends about like this is some stupid stereotype, whatever. But like I'm glad that I'm not a black person obviously, but as a supporter of Kofi Kingston, like I always thought he should have got pushed back in 2009, 2010. This has probably been like one of like the greatest storylines that have played out with my emotions of like, getting upset and the racial undertones. And I think you can do like people always want heel heat, right? People go, oh, we need good heels. You can't be a heel anymore. But the thing is like, how can you have good heels when you don't have good baby faces that make it like that? If you had a gay person like cutting a promo, making it seem cool, that like and putting down all like the stereotypes and all like the the judgment from all these other like conservative leaning type people. I think you can do that, but like again, like would I trust WWE to tell the stories? Probably like not as much, but like I could expect AEW maybe to tell these stories, maybe New Japan, maybe ROH, and I just think it's like I think it's long time due. Like you can have characters that call out systemic racism or just like systemic how minorities are treated. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's always this struggle in terms of being able to tell more sophisticated stories, but I think that in turn you have to be able to show your audience that you are treating these subjects with the kind of care that they expect them to be told in such a way that are thought-provoking, that are deeply thought out, and not simply just for the shock value of presenting something to an audience that is just going to elicit a negative reaction that typically it doesn't fall on the performer, it falls on the company trying to do something cheap and underhanded. And that's kind of their own history that has led the audience, I feel, to not have that confidence they can tell stories in such a way like that. And not to say that that can't change, but I feel the audience is kind of in the opinion of, well, we're going to wait and see what they are going to present to us before we give them the benefit of the doubt because they haven't earned that benefit.
No, I hear what you're saying, man. I just like, I'm just glad the storyline happened because I feel like it's opened up more conversation amongst a lot of wrestling podcasts to talk about it. And I mean, I know like you guys are used to compliments and all that, you know what I mean? But I mean, like, I really dug the conversation that you guys had with Nate. Like, this is probably one of the better conversations I've heard a wrestling podcast talk about these topics. I don't really get that from a lot of like the U.S. type of. I guess because in Canada we're more. I guess because it's more multicultural, so we are more open to talking about that. Like, I see a lot of other podcast or something like that kind of dismissing it. Not to call anyone out or anything, but I'm glad that you guys had this conversation with Nate and just has it open in general. You know what I mean? And Pollock, congratulations on the Kenny Omega get, man. That was a really good interview. And I'll let you guys go now. I don't want to take too much of your time. So thank you for letting me, talk about this stuff.
Hansi, we always appreciate the call. Thank you very much. So yeah, I think, first of all, I thought that was a fantastic chat with Nate. I always love chatting with him, and I was glad we got to really go deep into that topic. We're just going to keep going here.
Sure.
Jake is on the line. Jake, how are you?
Hey guys, how's it going today? How are you doing this fine afternoon?
We're doing swell.
I'm doing great, by the way, Pollock, really enjoyed the Kenny Omega interview. Like everybody else is saying, really appreciate it, really enjoyed it.
Let's also thank Wai, because if that wasn't done on video, I don't think a fraction of people would have checked that interview out. I think the fact that we did a video interview and Wai was able to put together that entire setup, a great interview is great, but I wanted as many people as possible to see it. So,
and Wai, you
I
do
could not have
amazing.
done any of the video stuff on my own.
It's all good. Wai, you do amazing videography stuff and great graphics as well. So I really appreciate the post-production stuff. All right. I do want to talk about what's going on next week. Really looking forward to G1 next week at Madison Square Garden.
Are you going?
Unfortunately not.
Watching? Yeah.
Unfortunately not. I'm saving money for Vegas in May, so I'm just gonna stay at home watching the stuff, all the events at home. But yeah, really looking forward to Ibushi versus Naito. Also Lethal, Skrull, and Taven for the three-way ladder match for the ROH World Championship. My question about that though is, I do believe that Marty Skrull is going to come out as with the victory, and we'll get the championship. But do you guys think that Ring of Honor is going to try to make a concerted effort to keep Marty Skrull with the company, or do you think Ring of Honor doesn't have a chance in hell for a Skrull to eventually leave the company and join his friends with the Elite?
No, I think that certainly you'll have a better indication of if they put the title on him at the Supercard. I think all things being equal, that would be the direction I would go as well with him. I certainly believe ROH is going to make a solid effort to retain him. But what we've also seen is that these guys have had an incredibly tight pact amongst one another that I would have told you I would have been surprised to see a lot of the moves that have been made. And these guys, they have wanted to all stick together, and I feel that Marty Skrull is certainly, you'd be naive to believe that is not a realistic option for him, of course.
At the same time, though, I mean, we don't know what the AEW television is going to look like. We don't know what AEW is going to look like come January. And I mean, if you're Marty Skrull, you have to kind of look at that roster and think, where's my place on that roster? When you have a guy like a Hangman Page who at this point is still waiting in the wings to get that top spot. So whereas in ROH, if he's already a main eventer, one of their, if not their most popular star,
and can do a lot in Ring of Honor in this new image of Ring of Honor being a focal point of that. And AEW is always going to be there. So I think he's going to look at it very seriously with Ring of Honor, who we've already established. Ring of Honor are making real big offers to guys. Like, they are not joking around with their offers. They can compete with these big time offers. So I think Marty Skrull's in a really advantageous position, but I think it does add some interest into the ladder match beyond just the actual match, but the booking of it too.
All right, cool. One more thing, guys, before I go. I'm not going to take too much of your time, but really appreciate and enjoy what you guys are doing with the Marvel reviews. Those are really fun to listen to. And I can't wait for you guys to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, come on, you guys reviewing Drax. What can get better than that?
Yeah, that's next on the agenda in April. So yeah, looking forward to that one.
Yeah.
So my question regarding that is, as you guys probably know, the Walt Disney Company has completed its acquisition with 20th Century Fox, and now because of that, we finally got Fantastic Four and X-Men back under the same roof with Marvel. I just want to ask Wei, do you think X-Men and Fantastic Four will be rebooted, and do you think that will become part of the MCU for Phase 4, in your opinion?
I don't know if there'll be something that they'll be doing immediately for Phase 4. It seems like they might have already have a lot of other plans in place, probably for Phase 4. But for sure they will be rebooted. From what I've heard last, it's that they might be keeping everybody, or they might be recasting almost everybody and everything, with perhaps the exception of Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, which I think is awesome. To me, honestly, like at this point, he's the best part of that Fox universe anyway. I don't think you can bring back, Fassbender or McAvoy, as much as I like them, as Magneto and Xavier, without bringing a whole lot of baggage, with that whole all those timelines, and just uh to me, I want to see a reboot. I want to see Kevin Feige's take on the proper X-Men story, the proper Fantastic Four story.
Yeah.
But I feel like, especially with the Fantastic Four, we're still not that far removed from like Fan Four Stick and like like the terrible iterations of Fantastic Four, that I feel like even if you wanted to wait 6 years, 5 years, even 10 years, I don't think that's such a bad thing. That's something Marvel can make, Disney can bank on maybe 10 years from now to generate them a whole lot more money. Whereas just throwing them out there right now, I don't think they have to do it. So if anything, I think you will get hints. Maybe you will get subtle clues of like their existence in the MCU in Phase 4, but I don't fully anticipate maybe movies entirely. Maybe not even until Phase 5.
Okay, cool. And just finally, speaking of Disney, you just mentioned Disney. If I'm becoming too political here, please forgive me, but do you like where Disney is positioned right now, with having so much control over so many stuff in Hollywood right now, with Star Wars, ABC, obviously Marvel as well? Personally, it kind of gives me a concern about creativity and originality, and place where filmmaking is. So yeah, do you think it's there are pros and cons to that, Disney having so much control to stuff?
I think I think the cons are mainly for your audience. I mean, you're right. There are pros and cons. I personally like the more concentrated control. I think is never good for the consumer. But the trade-off,
especially if that conglomerate owns media outlets.
yeah, I guess the trade-off, though, if you are a fan of these different universes, that now you can get these crossover movies, that is a benefit to you. A bit of a parallel to the UFC. It's not in the best fighters' interest that the UFC controls so much of the market, but for a fan, you get to see the top fighters fight one another. You don't have 85 different leagues and different title belts that you're dealing with and stuff like that. So yeah, there's pros and cons if you are just strictly a consumer.
At the moment, it doesn't seem to be much of an issue. If anything, it's been a benefit, having maybe just quality. Like I feel all the MCU movies have been quality thus far. I think, Star Wars films, it's somewhat more debatable from fans whether or not it's been positive. But I feel like even like if you're the most critical Star Wars fan, you're probably grateful that you're getting at least new Star Wars movies and that you're getting them at least once a year. I think that's been a great thing. To me, it hasn't been a problem yet. I've actually kind of appreciated it, but certainly, artistically, I do have concerns like 30 years down the road with any type of monopoly.
We have to get going, but before we
All
end
right.
off,
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Jake.
Thanks, Jake. We appreciate that. I thought we had actually lost Jake there. Do you want to do the unboxing still before we wrap up?
Yeah, before we get going here, very exciting time here in the post office, as we've just received a whole lot of our merch for our Iced Capp tier. And before we get going, I just wanted to kind of showcase some of it here, in particular an unboxing of something I'm very excited about that I haven't even seen yet.
Ooh.
So let's just kind of start off here. If you're an Iced Capp patron of our Patreon, the Post Wrestling Cafe, and that's Iced Capp tier is about $25 and above a month. That includes access to double, one milk, one sugar. So basically everything. But on top of that, we send you physical stuff. So just like last year, we'll be sending out postcards with a personal message from John and myself. But this year, we're sending new postcards.
Ooh.
These ones coming from our friend Robert Brocky, who had these designed and sent to us. So we'll be signing all of them with little messages, and we'll be sending them all out. Would you mind just moving that away, John? We got some brand new stickers. Vinyl stickers that are very popular. If you're not a member of Iced Capp, we'll also send these to you if you order a combo pack from the Post Wrestling store. And if you see us down in New York, we'll be handing out a bunch of these out. But if you are an Iced Capp member, you get an exclusive sticker.
Ooh.
Our Post Wrestling Cafe, completely original, always fresh stickers. Completely original design.
That looks fantastic. Wait, how did you come up with such a design?
Shit, I don't know.
It's amazing.
Sticking with our theme this year, we have brand new Post Wrestling coasters. These are rubberized coasters that we had made. Originally, I was going to make them in paper, but I mean, come on, like, who wants to, like, we want people to keep these for life, and I love these.
I love these coasters. I use them all the time. They're my coasters.
They look just like the icon on the iOS app. Like if you save our website to the desktop. So that's what I love most about those. So we'll be sending one of those into every Iced Capp package. At the moment, that's the only way to get them. And we also have sleeves. Post Wrestling Coffee sleeves,
which I tried out on a video.
Did they work? Did they help you?
Yeah, I got chastised for not using the sleeve after I put it on.
Some great acting, yeah, and maybe some continuity issues. But Post Wrestling Coffee sleeves, again, the only way to get them right now is through.
That's worth the sign up right there.
Is through the Iced Capp.
But you're telling me there's more.
There's more, John.
What?
Yeah, because very popular last year in our Iced Capp packages, of course, was the limited edition enamel pin. And I'm very happy to announce that we have a brand new enamel pin to give to members. This year, it is the Rewind Away enamel pin. I'm so excited about these. Like, the company that I hold it up a little bit longer, John. The company that we're doing these through is Lapel, and they do such great jobs. I have a lot of fun just designing them and picking like proper colors. This one was a little bit challenging because it's a gradient, and these are kind of difficult to make in like kind of like 5 colors. But
Way gave them hell. They were like, "You figure out a way."
Well, no, I mean, I did my research looking at other pin designs, and I was really happy with this result. So only about 100 of these made. So please come and get them. Finally, John, the big reveal.
What?
Let's clear this stuff out.
You almost called all our merchandise shit.
All right.
Oh dear. What's in this box, Way?
One last reveal. Oh, we should show the address.
Oops.
That'd be bad. But yeah, one last reveal, of course, and this is the top secret audio cassette that we will be revealing.
What?
Yeah, I guess at this point it won't be much of a secret, will it?
No, but I think we should.
I think we should let people know. This is the audio cassette that I think on some random podcast we talked about the idea of recording a secret show on a podcast that people can only listen to via audio cassette.
Yes.
And
this is like we went and we did our comedy special.
Yeah, something like that. So we're about to check out the audio cassettes for the first time. John is opening the box. Very well packaged. Okay.
Could be drugs in here.
This is shit.
Oh wow, this is really concealed. Okay, let's remove that.
Okay,
box.
we got one. Yeah, just one box.
Okay. Let's.
Okay, the other way. Turn the box, John. It's like a box of drugs. Let's take them out for the very first time. Introducing this year's Iced Capp special.
These look awesome.
Lower, John, and closer to the camera. This is the Post Wrestling Time Capsule for 2018, our very first year. It's a 190-minute, or sorry, 100. What is it? It's a hour and a half show that John and I did. And it's our very first audio cassette. This is amazing.
This looks amazing,
Okay,
dude.
so
This looks
here
like
it is. So yeah, this was just a little label that we made, but on the inside, a green cassette, a green tape with
because it was year one. We were very green.
exactly, our very first year. And on the inside,
this is amazing.
An audio cassette. Wow, I'm so happy with the way these turned out. A brand new custom label, just
spelled my name right. This is amazing.
Well, I handled all this myself, so of course.
I know Wai would take care of my last name.
Anyway, so we won't. I mean, the show itself is exclusive to this audio cassette only. So if you don't have a player, you're gonna have to find a way to listen to it.
Yeah. It is year one, and I will say I think it's the most in-depth we have ever spoken about pretty much everything to do with post wrestling. Yeah. So I was very happy with this show that we did. And for those that are Iced Capp members and Espresso members, you will be receiving these.
I'm so happy with how
they look fantastic, dude. You did a fantastic job.
Thank you so much.
They're great.
At the moment, we only have about 100 of these pressed. So again,
limited edition.
We probably have about like 70 already spoken for with all the members that are already getting them. I'm gonna be I apologize for some of the delays. We have to wait to all this for all this stuff to come in, but I'll be sending these out very shortly. So if you want to sign up, it's $25 a month, and we ask for a minimum of 4 months of pledging. So this is just a way of thanking people who are extremely generous with their pledges at the Post Wrestling Cafe. So if you want to sign up, just do that right now. Patreon.com/postwrestling.
All right. And I think that's going to wrap up the show. We were a little late starting, but we pumped out the hour here. We will be back on Friday. New Rewind Away for patrons with a review of 2 episodes of The Simpsons. 1 episode from season 8, 1 from season 24. And Jay Hunter from OSW Review will be on with us for a good portion of that show. That's up on Friday. I'll also have a chat with Mike Bond from MMA Junkie, who is in Philadelphia for Saturday's Fight Night card, with Edson Barbosa taking on Justin Gaethje. WH Park is with me on Saturday for our monthly post ProRes. I'm working on it, Wai. ProRes. And that's the week.
Very exciting.
And I've decided I'm going to take my vacation next week. I'm going to Monday to Monday, I'm off. Very busy week starting Monday. Wai and I will be off to New Jersey, / New York next Thursday. So lots of bonus shows coming your way. If you are listening to this free at our YouTube channel, do check out the Kenny Omega interview, and you can subscribe, postwrestlingcafe.com. Best time of the year to sign up.
Definitely. I'm really glad the stream held up for the second portion, because it would have been really sad if we had to redo that whole thing again. So thank you everybody in the chat room for sticking around, and thank you for the people who called in too.
All right. That is it. And we are off the air.